You know, when you picture a king or a queen, your mind probably jumps to fairy tales or history books, right? Absolute rulers deciding everything. But what if I told you that right now, in the 21st century, dozens of countries are still monarchies? In an age of democracy, why on earth do thrones still exist? That's the puzzle we're going to unpack today.
To really get our heads around modern monarchy, we have to tackle this one crucial question. What is the difference between a king who rules and a king who simply reigns? See, one has the power of life and death, while the other might just be a powerful symbol. And that distinction, well, that's the key to understanding how monarchies manage to survive the age of revolution. The whole idea of a monarch has always been this tightrope walk. On one side, you have this ideal, like Plato's philosopher king, a ruler so wise and just that their power is an absolute force for good. But on the other side, you have the despotic court, where one person's whim is law and nobody can challenge it. The modern monarchy is basically the answer to that age-old problem. Okay, so to really get to the heart of this, we've got to get our language straight. These terms might sound kind of similar, but trust me, the differences are where the real story is.
First up, monarchism. This is the big picture idea. It's the belief that having a monarch as your head of state is actually a good system of government. It's all about supporting the institution, the system itself, not necessarily one specific person wearing the crown.
Now, a royalist, that's more specific. They don't just support the idea of a king, they support a particular king or a specific royal family. Think of the English Civil War. The royalists weren't just fighting for monarchy, they were fighting for King Charles I. It's about loyalty to a person, not just the system.
And here is the big bad of our story: despotism. The philosopher Montesquieu put it perfectly. A monarch governs by law, but a despot governs by whim. Despotism is that unchecked, absolute power. It's the historical shadow that the whole idea of a constitutional monarchy was created to escape. And all this brings us to a phrase from the political scientist Vernon Bogdanor that just perfectly nails it: a sovereign who reigns but does not rule. See, to reign is to be the symbolic head, the face of the nation. To rule is to actually hold the political power. That separation is everything. It is the absolute foundation of the modern monarchy.
So, how did we get from all-powerful despots to symbolic figureheads? Well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. It was this long, slow journey of power shifting away from the throne and towards the people. If you look way back, you can see the cracks in absolute power starting to form centuries and centuries ago. I mean, it goes as far back as the ancient Hittites, whose king actually had to consult an assembly. Then, jump forward to 2015, you have English nobles forcing King John to sign the Magna Carta, putting it in writing that, nope, the king is not above the law. But the real game changer was still to come.
That pivotal moment was the Glorious Revolution of 1688 in England. It led directly to the Bill of Rights, which basically cemented the power of Parliament over the monarch. From that point on, the king or queen would be bound by laws that they themselves could not change. This, right here, was the birth of the constitutional monarchy as we know it today.
All right, so let's fast forward. What does a monarch actually do in the 21st century? Their role is this fascinating mix of pure symbol and, in some places, a surprising amount of substance. And hey, this isn't just some old European or British thing. Constitutional monarchies are all over the world, from Canada and Australia to Japan, Thailand, and Morocco. It's actually a surprisingly widespread form of government.
But here's the thing. Not all modern monarchies are the same. They pretty much fall into two camps. On one side, you have an executive monarchy, like in Morocco or Jordan, where the monarch still has real, significant political power. But on the other, you have a ceremonial monarchy, like in the UK or Japan, where the monarch is almost entirely a symbolic figurehead with very little direct influence. So if the role is symbolic, what do those symbols look like in the real world? Well, you've probably seen this before: the Royal Coat of Arms of the United Kingdom. It's basically the official stamp of the monarch. You'll see it on government buildings, on official documents. It represents the authority of the crown.
And here's where that symbol touches everyday life in a kind of weird way. You'll find that same coat of arms on a can of Schweppes ginger beer. Why? Because the company holds a royal warrant, which just means they're an official supplier to the royal household. It's a stamp of quality, and a really subtle reminder of the monarchy's presence in daily life.
Which brings us back to that big question. In a world of elected presidents and prime ministers, what's the point? Why do people still argue for keeping a monarch around? Well, the supporters have a few key arguments.
First, they say a monarch can unify the country above the messy political fights of the day, especially in a crisis. Second, they can be a safeguard for liberty, a final check on politicians who might try to overstep their power. And maybe most importantly, a monarch is a living, breathing symbol of a nation's history and continuity on the world stage.
Now, here's a fascinating, more philosophical take from the author C.S. Lewis. He suggested that we humans have this natural desire for a figurehead to look up to. He argued that if you get rid of a king, people don't stop looking for heroes. They just turn to celebrities, billionaires, or athletes instead. For Lewis, a monarch fulfills a deep-seated human need for a national symbol.
So, where does all this leave monarchy today? Is it a permanent fixture, or is it just a fading tradition?
Get this. There are 44 monarchies in the world today. And yeah, a lot have disappeared over the last century. But that number shows that for a huge chunk of the global population, this system of government is still very much alive and kicking.
So in the end, the debate really boils down to this. Is a modern monarch a powerful symbol of unity and a safeguard against political chaos? Or is it an outdated, undemocratic relic that has no place in our modern world? The answer, it seems, really depends on who you ask and where you happen to live.